my office hours. Today we're going to look at income inequality. Let's begin with a simple example. On the board behind me I've got two small societies, Alpha and Omega. Each of these societies has 10 citizens, so what we're going to compute is a measure of the degree of income inequality across both of these societies. We're going to use what's called quintile analysis. Let's begin with Alpha. So with quintiles, what you do is you divide the data into 5 segments. And so I'm going to draw a line here between the first 2 individuals, the next 2 individuals who are each making $30,000, the next 2 individuals, the next 2, and then the final 2. Once I've got the data partitioned into 5 different groups, what we like to do is look at the income in the top group versus the bottom group in society. So here's the bottom group in society, both of these people making $30,000, both of these individuals right here making $90,000. So to compute our measure of income inequality, we take the top quintile, where the average in this case is going to be $90,000, and divide that by those in the bottom quintile, and there the average is $30,000. 90,000 divided by 30,000 is 3.0. What does that tell us? It just tells us that the people in the top quintile have 3 times the income of the individuals in the bottom quintile. That's our measure of relative income inequality. We've got another society over here called Omega. We'll do the same exact thing. We divide this up into groups of equal size. And you can see the distribution is broken down into 5 groups. We've got the poorest group, the next poorest group, the middle group here, and then the 2 wealthier groups in society. And so once we've done that, we also want to perform a quintile analysis. And so I'm going to look at the income among the lowest performers in society, and I'm going to benchmark that against the incomes at the upper end of the income distribution. We'll take the top quintile again and divide it by the bottom quintile. Here the top quintile is $250,000 on average. Here the bottom quintile is $50,000 on average. And when you divide 250 by 50, you get a ratio of 5.0. That tells us, of course, that in Omega, the rich are richer relative to the poor than the rich were relative to the poor over here in Alpha. And so what you want to ask yourself then is, well, where would you like to live? And if you're like most people, you would say, well, there's less income inequality here, there's more income inequality here, so you might be tempted to live here. And that's certainly understandable because, to some extent, how we view ourselves in society is a function of where we fall on the income ladder. And so you certainly wouldn't feel as poor if you were over here as you would over here. But you might also answer that you'd prefer to live in Omega over Alpha. And the reason you might answer that, if you've been looking at the data here behind the board behind me, is that even the poorest person in Omega makes $50,000, whereas the poorest persons in Alpha make $30,000. So the poor are relatively better than the poor here, and the rich over here are relatively better than the rich in Alpha as well. So if you said you'd like to live in Omega, because whether you ended up poor or rich in life, you'd have more than you'd have in Alpha, I'd certainly understand that as well. But one of the characteristics of Omega is that it has a slightly higher level of income inequality. And so you can't always look at a number and say absolutely that higher levels of income inequality are inherently bad. You need to know more about the data, and that's why I'm doing this office hours. You can think about the relationship between the data and the level of income inequality and the overall desirability, for instance, of a particular community being greater than one that appears to have less income inequality. I hope this has been helpful. Hope you have a great day.